Коллеги, добрый день. Я предлагаю уже начать наше пленарное заседание, посвященное очень важной, интересной для всех сегодня университетов.
Dear colleagues, turn to project work and education. This is the topic of our session today. So the system of education has new challenges today, and you need to possess project competences, project thinking, and the ability to work in a team. It is not enough to be just someone who acts according to the rules and according to what is said and determined. You need to adapt to the changes that take place in the labor market and to work in teams and carry out communication. In these circumstances, the universities need to be able to provide certain opportunities to the students. They need to have the opportunity to elaborate their own projects, and it is a serious challenge for a university. I would like to cite Mr. Kuzminov this Tuesday in the meeting of in campus of St. Petersburg University. He mentioned projects by students, main aim and challenge that is set to modern universities, and there are no universities in Russia who fulfill this for now. This has been in the agenda for a long time, and a lot of universities have elaborated and implemented some practices of project developments and programs. So we have the opportunity to learn about conceptual innovation in the regard of projects, and where the project approach became the basis of the whole process of education, the change of the main program of education, interaction with the employers, etc. I introduce the speakers. Vice Rector of High Economic School, Sergei Roshin, Yuri Danekin, Vice Rector on Education Activities of Novgorod State University, Asylbek Kazhakhmetov, President of Almaty University of Management. He's going to be present online. Unfortunately, the colleagues haven't mentioned to come here, and because of the difficulties related to COVID, and Taisia Pogodaeva, Vice Rector of Tyumen State University. I give the floor to Sergei Roshin for the first speech. I set in the time limit, it's 15 minutes, and we are going to have time for questions, comments, discussion. So please be prepared to ask questions. I ask our speakers not to speak too quickly, because we have simultaneous translation here, and the translation is important for the foreign participants. So please, you start, and we hope that it will be successful, because you introduced this term, the turn to projects, which is an important strategic direction. It belongs to you, right? I don't know whom this term belongs. It's an issue for memorists, those who will write history. That's good. First of all, I'm happy to see a lot of colleagues whom I haven't had a chance to see in person for a long time. I'm happy to be here, that we are all united and gathered here, and we are going to speak about challenges that are in front of that all the universities confront right now, because these are challenges not of characteristic for just one university, but for all of them. Natalia Vasilievna has set a difficult task of speaking slowly and be able to say everything in just 15 minutes. So it's a confrontation, I think, of interest. But I'm going to do my best. So I'm just showing my presentation and make some comments. What is important is that I see the aims of my presentation is to tell about experience that we have created here and accumulated here in High School of Economics, and of course it is not the only path possible, and it is an ongoing situation. It is not something that has come to an end, and it has started. It started someday, not yesterday, and it's related to our understanding on what we need to do and how we need to work, finding our pathway and technologies that we want to use. And I'm going to speak about redesigning of all this system that we call education. We watch and we witness a lot of changes in the system of education, educational programs. But firstly, I want to speak about this inertia, the term education in a classical sense. I'm going to speak about additional education as well, about additional formats of work that we can establish. So taking into consideration that it is a report about our experience and there are some cases, so I'm going to start. So the first thing that is important is that a lot of universities, they have a discussion when they set a goal of turning into projects. And I don't know if it is an easy start or a difficult start. And so it is felt by a lot of universities, and I don't think that I am the originator of this term. And this story goes back to 7 to 8 years ago, and we also had failures. We had a huge discussion in the academic society. Turn to projects, no problems. Each of the yearly works of the students is a project. What do you want? We have projects. Don't you see? It's a yearly project of the students. What turn? For a number of centuries already, we've done it, and it's all clear. Judging by your reaction and my colleagues who are here near me, who are going to speak, you know this rhetorics. So there is a subdivision. We don't speak about some elements of the so-called projects in a traditional sense. We speak about projects as one of the key element of educational program that forms key competences related to mastering this educational process and program. And it's a separate thing, a separate point, an important element in this educational process. So this is independently organized activity, type of activity. Secondly, we face it and we continue to face it, and there is no just one decision or solution to it. The projects can be of different nature. It is not impossible to solve all the issues with one type of projects, to create all competences, etc. So what we await from project activities demands variativity and flexibility in understanding of these forms, but we divide them into projects that are obligatory and the additional ones. So there is some variation that is involved. So how the instruments are created and built up from both from the students and from the teachers from the university side. An important issue that I'm going to speak about, and some of the points later I'm going to pass quickly. I think it touches upon all of us. And so why do students need participation in projects? We are a research institute or university, so there are statuses that differ. Yeah. So what kind of projects we're speaking about? Many people just do not understand what it means. It's an important issue. I will just cite a discussion that I had as not a vice rector, but as one of the staff people in the department of economics.
So a part of my colleagues say, what kind of projects? Why do you mention projects? Why do you need to transform just the defending of theses and courseworks? Why do we need to make them projects? We are a research institution. We give economic education. We need to teach science, just the set format, make them write diploma work, thesis and coursework. And the idea behind that is that we are researchers. We need to make such researchers, and this is what we teach our students. But for me, there was a simple question that I told my colleagues as a teacher. I said, dear colleagues, we have around 500 bachelors of economics. Do we really mean that our research institution, 500 works, will be published as real academic works? We have great students, but if we have at least 10 bachelor works as real publications, it would be wow. It would be great result for academic development of young colleagues. And this question is still very important for us. And what about the rest 480 works? And it's very important to analyze and to understand that when we build skills, academic research skills, it doesn't mean that they need to be real researchers in the future. So the ability to create and make an academic work, it can have very practical meaning that they have good academic skills. They can use these skills as analytical work in their future work and life. And I always mention this when we talk about engineering or design. It is much more obvious there. But when we talk about such things, not social work, but also when we talk about applying mathematics there, we need to understand this is not necessarily an article. And when we try 500 bachelors to make them write an article, I think we make a strange action, and this is strange towards all stakeholders of this process. And it's really important to answer why a research institution needs project work, because they solve problems and challenges of this institution and forms high-quality education in such institutions and universities, as well as academic result, the same way as academic result. What's more, a project is not a set result. And this is the most unique we can form in terms of competencies in our students and what is really demanded as qualified specialists and for those who enter this professional world. When we teach set results, this is not a research institution. And not set result can have various forms. This is our challenge and key task of this pivotal turn. How to set educational practices to make them investigate and research into the unset result. This is their creativity and teamwork with other colleagues, and we form their competences to set and to work towards this unset result. This is our key priority, key challenge, how we try to solve in our environment. This is not a simple and an easy work. It started not a few years ago. In 2014, we started a new bachelor model of HSE, which we've revised recently. Now we have a new model. And it's really important. And at that time, we said that almost 20% of workload is devoted to project works. We can mean different things by that, but we have a period of collecting mistakes, fails, and successes. And on different subjects, on different educational directions, we have implemented, included into the curriculum and study plans, getting credits for a specific number of projects. Why different? Because there are different educational environments. Some of them have their own specifics, and over the years we tried to adapt them. And the same thing we've done with master's studies from 2018. We revised it recently and developed half a year ago. We have a new standard since December 2020. We are trying to work on design of these educational programs and educational environment. We've done the same. What's more, the experience of different typology of projects. The projects that are obligatory. They can be not necessarily research projects, but they can be maybe applied or only research programs. They can create some analytical products and projects that are related to some processes. Of course, there are individual group projects, and they can be external or internal. It depends on who the customer is. We try to make every project that to have a customer. Why is it not possible to reach without postgraduate students? We have 7,500 students. It's difficult to find employers who will make external projects for all the number of students. We are moving towards this aim. We are trying to make these breakthroughs. However, now it's a little bit impossible. So I do not try to diminish the meaning of internal projects, because in terms of applied and research work in university, there are a lot of activities in laboratories and universities where we can involve and engage our students. What's important, and I pay a lot of attention in my university, everything needs to have norms. Everything needs to have standards. Otherwise, the process can suffer. From the Russian point of view, we have standards, legislative documents, regulations, and projects about projects activity. And what's more, it's important to regulate the participation of teachers in those projects. Other tools to make this happen, we do not have a unified form. There are different patterns and models, and at the same time there are project traits. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it's a really powerful tool between students and teachers, and it can be accepted by teachers and other stakeholders of educational process and their roles. What's more, it's also a tool of reaching goals to enrich the portfolio of a student. This here in the presentation, you can see the illustration, how the prototypes are correlating with each other, the core of the project. This is a digital service that was formed long ago, whereas university workers can use it, and it's important to include the roles of academic leaders there, different programs that assess and accept the projects, as well as students who can choose from. So they can choose beyond their curriculum, their program. This is not a monopoly on this matching, but half of these projects go through this resource. This is a structure how the projects are created. The majority of projects are not created for one educational program. Like in life, usually programs need the participants from various areas of life. And of course, sometimes we have local projects as well. So I try to finish. I will show you the pictures with minimum comments. I do not insist that all the projects are interesting for everyone. I will just show and comment on illustrations. So here are the projects that are oriented on different educational programs, just the promotion of a magazine about psychology. This promotion needed various competencies and various educational expertise, IT, psychologists, philologists, a game simulator for ethical code, interdisciplinary project that requires tool competencies, instrumental competencies, subject competencies, and makes it possible to create a good discussion between colleagues in various educational areas. Now a research project. Research is also a project. The age where it stays just a science is very thin. Sometimes editors of magazines understand it. Sometimes they reject our articles. Sometimes business understand it very well. They say that from research projects they can get a lot of useful and practical information, so they invest into new knowledge. And they correlate with other activities of the universities that we develop, for example, with student expeditions. We open the Russian territories. We remember the expedition in the framework, how to make this development from urban development to the regions, and resources of different approach to the channels. Research input is really important, benchmarking of corporate systems. There are various projects and they use various tools, engineering, managerial projects, applied projects with more accent. I don't know whether I need to read them, but I will tell you that there are some engineering projects as well as projects that use applied aspects in business and using and creating new tools of promotion. Service projects. Sometimes we ask why have we planned this type of project, service projects. Maybe applied and research projects are enough, because to form competences in activities, in team activities that work on specific result. This is one of project competencies, and it's connected with some events. In a broad meaning, these are huge or small events that are connected with expert or research activity. And now I'd like to return to this topic later. The difference when the project is a basic tool of education, a basic element, or just an element that is additional. There are different subjects, and to make it basic activity, we need to rebuild educational system. We cannot just implement it as an element. If you want to make a project as a central element of educational process, we need to change the curriculum and to change the educational plan. Otherwise, you can use it only for 3 months before the defending of a thesis. We need to start implementing it from the first year and attract new structures and use new structures. Here are examples. For example, a School of Design. It's a good example. It's clear. At the same time, the School of Design is not about research, so I don't want to underestimate the work, but the whole work in design school was built according to designing activity. So they use digital projects, they analyze and represent them, and the whole structure of school curriculum works for project activity and for project results. The roles that exist in professional colleagues that participated in this educational project at all stages. this is just a filter that reacts on projects that students create. They either accept them or reject. This is just a huge professional discussion. So the whole education was built as a project. Here you can see just a picture. I will briefly show you. And here is another example, our Moscow Institute of Economics and Electronics. So for engineers, everything is clear, but the task is not simple. We tried to solve different tasks. We rebuilt the structure of educational program. We have 4 bachelor programs there, now already 5. And we also have specialities. And we tried to rebuild it to make them possible to be involved in the projects, to work with external and internal customers. What is important here? Just the experience how to filter projects and how to work with them later, just starting from the beginning. And we also created a digital framework to work with those projects. Just to chatbot, we also have chatbot Kondraty that reminds about deadlines, about some stages of the project and makes a dialogue with stakeholders. Just the aim that we have not solved yet. They worked out the methodology perfectly to fix the results of the project activity. We have projects and students enter and leave the projects. They exist as educational projects, and students can come in and leave due to various reasons, even if they leave the university. But the most important thing is to state what they've done and how to give it back. So what we've done with our colleagues, we have a methodology to fix the results and to transfer those results to new participants who are involved in the project on the later stages. So we formed the system how to estimate the role of a student in the project. So later we can build a system how to estimate the input of students into the projects. So here we have various partners that the number of partners is growing. And I'd like to draw your attention that first we attracted only some dozens of partners when we started in 2018. Now we have over 100 projects and a lot of partners are involved in it, and we involve over 100 students. We can scale these projects and we can create digital services. Here is another story. Before I told about project works, and here we have a lot of partnership. What we do in computer science department is work with employers and how to work with these projects and to guide these projects. Not necessarily employers can provide such guidance. They have different tasks, other tasks, so sometimes it's not even possible. So we have to create clear work and framework, and everyone has its role there. So how we work with companies, different project groups of students. Let me show you. Here it's very important information about startup and the company of students that developed perfectly. They started with a project and then they continued to be a startup. They have a good position in Russia and in the world. And in terms of computer science and IT, it is expected, but at the same time, it still has to be done.
Faculty of Economic Sciences, I've spoken about it a lot. They started later, and surely the main aim was to rebuild, refurbish the study plan, and actually try to make research seminars become project seminars and give new scientific competences. As a result, during just 2 years, we created this transfer to the new model, and it works really well. We have a number of interesting projects where economists work and they collaborate with financial markets in the broad sense and with different players of the financial markets. A lot of interesting things are going on. So where do we find ourselves in 7 years? So the first thing, the project has become kind of a norm and something students have got used to. But maybe doesn't always go in line with the aims that were stated. It doesn't have the same load of the aims that we had in the beginning. We have the infrastructure, but we feel and realize that actually here we need to create more bigger diversity of digital services in order to support this project activity and incorporate it into business process. So these are the goals that we set for our university. Share of real projects with external customers, creation of long-term and big-scale mega projects, development of instruments of methodical support, creation of inter-faculty project offices in order to grow the share of interdisciplinary projects, and then refurbishing of the content of education in general. First, we need to provide some elements of knowledge and instruments to the first-year students, freshmen, so that they don't only watch and form the simplest databases. But very often you cannot give this instrument without fundamental knowledge, because space and time is actually the same. So this is the difficulty. I'm sorry to have taken such a long time. Thank you very much, Sergei Yurievich. I knew that you would need more than 15 minutes, but it was so interesting I couldn't interrupt you. There are questions in the audience. So there is no microphone, so I can't translate the question so far. So do you consider this type of activity for students to be student activities, or it should be integrated and have a real output in the real outer world as business projects? So do you think that that participation of business can be like real, so that they can ask students for some projects? I haven't spoken about commercialization. Actually, I didn't touch upon it. It doesn't mean that this topic doesn't exist in this aspect, but I haven't mentioned it. From this point of view, you cannot make this interpretation. So you cannot actually interpret it as this activity that it's all meant to have commercialization. No, the aim is to have to create competences that are up to date and demanded in the outer modern world. So participation in projects with real industrial partners, yes, it is our aim, because these projects they are accepted and they originated in the real life, and these are not some internal university projects. The aim to work outside the university, yes, sure, we do have it. So how it is related? to universities is being discussed. We have different subject matters and spaces. I'm an economist, and so I believe that if the project is needed by someone is paying for it. Otherwise, from my point of view as an economist, this is doubtful project. So how can we, so I haven't spoken in terms of commercial aspect, do we get a margin or whatever. I don't know about political projects and business. For me, business project is something that is needed to business, full stop. Secondly, are they ready to consider student projects? Sure, they are ready to do it if these are valuable projects. Business is not meant for play. So what we mark as students project, I wouldn't mark it this way or label it this way. These are projects that include students, and they can be very different and versatile. And leaders of these programs are often well established and esteemed specialists and teachers and scientists. So student science, so-called, no, we are not speaking about it. We are speaking about a certain real existing activity, and it's not vague or whatever. So it's activities that need to be carried out. Lastly, does it mean that in the projects the educational component should be missing or shouldn't be there? So our experience shows that there is always some interplay between educational aspect and real targets and aims. It's really rare that a external colleague from the business, he is a leader of the project because he lacks competence in order to organize this dialogue in a way that it incorporates some educational component, not as a super task, but because it is out of practical necessity. Okay, we need to have doubles. So that means people from real business and accompanying professionals from the university side who allow to create this normal dialogue. Because in this moment, in this time, they study, of course, and they are not able to do certain things. In all these cases, there is not a universal answer, universal model that goes for everything that we do. There is a diversity. Thank you. Please, the next question. Good afternoon. Diana, a student of High School of Economics. As far as I understand, now in the chain there are customers, students, and in between them the mediators are teachers. Are there any projects without teachers as leaders of these projects? Yeah, there is such a great composer, Eduard Artemiev. He's Soviet and Russian composer who writes great music, and he likes electronic music. He wanted not to have someone who performs the music, so that there is just his music and performance, but no musician in between. Yeah, sure. There are such projects, and I gave some of the examples. So it's possible. If it's possible in mass, no, probably not, rather than possible due to a number of reasons. Yeah, we need to have infrastructure for these projects, for interaction, etc. Thank you. One more question. Two questions. Dear colleagues, please be concise so that we pass on to the next report. The remaining questions will be asked later in the end. Good afternoon. I am a sociologist, PhD in social sciences. I wanted to know if you raised the question of instruments for evaluation of competences, because you mentioned software soft competences in soft skills. So is it difficult to evaluate those competences? So this is my question. Thank you. It's a really good question, but it will bring us to a long discussion that will be far away, and I just express my attitude towards it. I believe that academic university circles is actually too much obsessed with the evaluation issue. So we teach and we need to evaluate. I believe that we need to have reflection on why we need to do it. I am an economist, in applied economics in labor markets. So this is one of my topics, labor markets. And we have a really interesting discussion in the academic world and in the outer world. So the discussion is how the salary of the graduates is related to their scores in the university. So the success at the university, the scores, high scores, is it converted? No, not always the case. I believe the question is really complicated, so that we wouldn't be really obsessed with this cause, because we're just killing ourselves for this, and then people go out in the outer world and they understand that it's really relevant. So the question is, what form? Sometimes really needed, and university builds such things. University creates a system of external and independent evaluation of for example, foreign language knowledge, etc. And me and my colleagues, we have one more work in progress in this direction. Every time discussing if we need to do it or not, we ask ourselves if there is a demand for this evaluation. Yeah, in the couloirs, like in the university, yes. In some yeah, for some other skills, I'm not sure that the certificate, like for soft skills, if you have a certificate, you can work in the team, for example, that certifies it. No employer will pay attention to it. He will look at your experience, the workplaces that you had, and he will understand the situation. So why and what is the system of this evaluation? I'm not sure that what we call soft skills should be actually translated into this evaluation, and that we need always give the scores. So the issue is how universal this is in relation to the outer world. Thank you. There was one more question. Okay, last question for now. Good afternoon, Maria. So my question is, so I understood that there are programs where project approach works better than in other ones. So what are the reasons for that, and in your understanding? So what is the decision, probably a solution for the programs where it doesn't work? Okay, I'll try to be concise because I spoke for a long time. In a number of cases, it's ontological reasons because the space exists for different things. Fundamental mathematics is one of the best in our country. But when fundamental mathematics I approach by you, who's saying that we want to transfer everything to the project work, and they look at you as an idiot or an alien, and because they work in a different way. But this applied project block can be maybe as an additional thing, not as a main or major approach. In all the other cases, I can actually think of something, of some project activities. In some cases, so it's ontological reasons. In some cases, it's societal, that society is not ready for that, and this also happens. Somewhere it doesn't work well because the scale is too big, because if the scale is small enough, then you cannot just transfer it to a bigger scale. So what can be done? From the management point of view, create the framework and work and build the process and accumulate experience, except for ontological cases such as fundamental mathematics, as I have mentioned. Thank you. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, for your participation. And we pass on to the next report. I give the floor to Olga Evgenievna Kolpinskaya. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I will represent a model in the regional university. We are a flagship university since 2012. Just a second. So we got the status of flagship university, and we confronted new aims, and we needed to redefine our aims.
We have a rather active position and work with regional authorities, and our strategy was the development of Novgorod region by 2030, and in the strategy there is the conception of the city university. In regards, when we look at the educational policy of the Novgorod University, we asked how university can help region and give the opportunity to students that study there to show themselves and to bring some value and to stay in the region. The Grand Novgorod is between St. Petersburg and Moscow, and of course these two cities just drain the resources from the town, from Novgorod. And one of the aims of the regional university that we have is to make people, young students, stay in the region. Of course, we talked about implementation of the project work in 2018. We had quite an interesting experience together with MTE University and 70 students from Novgorod University. In terms of these project initiatives, they tried to work on projects besides their basic university program. It was an interesting experience for us. And in 2019, we entered with a full, complete conception of the project education for the whole university. Talking about the specific points of project activities, we talk about scaling. When in 2019 we had all programs on bachelor stage were put into the new model, we took IT direction over the middle education, as we have Polytechnical College that work together with the university, and we wanted to look how it is possible on the level of professional education. And in 2020 we moved all educational programs into the project model from this professional education. Of course, for us it's very important to correlate with the regional agenda, and together with the administration of Grand Novgorod we create roadmaps in different directions that are needed to develop project activity in the city. These are the problems of the city and the region in general. We also can say that one of interesting points when we implement project activities, that a student is a stakeholder of 3 units. a student is a student of an academic group of the direction and department where they enrolled. Then we mixed all the first course, all the students of bachelor degree to learn basic disciplines like philosophy, psychology, legislative studies. Students are given a number of digital group, and while studying this discipline, they sit besides with a random person from the first course. So this is how we create to enrich their horizons and to increase their competencies in communication, as well as influence on the scaling of their mindset. Not scaling, but broadening their mindset. Also, each student is connected with a team. And we took a framework, interdisciplinary, and on the first courses, it became the most important for us. We've elaborated the project activity framework. And we set the number of students in each team program, and there are 8 members in a team, and teachers have new roles, either from external area. They come from with new roles that are involved into the implementation of this project model. First, we talk about mentorship, about consulting experts and tutors. We've also revised the educational schedule, and each term is divided into 4 pieces. Each piece has 4 weeks. 3 of them are educational. Students are diving into the major program, and one week is devoted for project activities, and students are involved into the projects. And they meet their mentors, they have expertise of projects, the defendants of projects. And on this project week, the educational process is implemented in the curriculum as a project group. The project becomes an essential part of educational disciplines. There are 2 of them each semester in the educational curriculum of all directions. We have project practicum, and there are certain credits for that. If we look into this model in numbers, 2,590 students of bachelor program are involved into the program activity. There were 350 teams were formed, and it's really important for us that teams are formed according to the level of preparation. We also can say that we constantly enlarge and expand the number of tutors and mentors. Of course, we have more mentors than tutors, and you can see that we have 180 mentors currently. And we are preparing the program of qualification, and we are going to invite our colleagues and other teachers who are not mentors yet and who do not have this qualification yet. Why there are not so many tutors? We have only 45 tutors now. For the first course, each team has a tutor that supports this project activity. On the second and third course, the tutor is only by request, so we do not need a lot of tutors right now. The roles of mentors and experts, we have external and internal experts. It really depends on the theme of the project and taking into account all the projects that we have for today. We can talk about 4 different tracks: social, innovational, entrepreneurial, and research. Of course, the implementation of the project model is limited by the standards for us. Standard limits help us differentiate project activities as an organization of educational processes. we can differentiate them by specific boundaries. This is how we define project activity on bachelor programs, and differently we define project activities for a medical university with mixed bachelor and specialty, and the specifics of medical education and the workload, the educational load the students of medical specialty have. We were not able to create common tracks for students medical and other subjects. So this is why we put medical specialty aside. And of course, professional middle education, it has their own frames, framework how to have practice. They have a separate model inside the university. As you can see, the specifics of our university is that the project logics is implemented into different disciplines, which brings changes into regulations and standards. In contrast, bachelor degree and professional studies have this practice inside the curriculum. So here you can see the logics of the project activity. The example is a bachelor program. You can see how the project is being changed and the stakeholders that influence the content of the project and the interaction between all stakeholders inside the project activity. On the first course, we have interdisciplinary teams, and we keep following this framework. The project requires, we talk about only educational projects, and we form soft skills. On the second course, the department suggests just a window of projects. It depends on the different directions, and there are applied and theoretical research directions, and students can see all the projects. And on the first week in September, students assign to this or that project, and they start forming competencies, not only universal but also specific. Also, when they put the project into the platform, into the window, they also say who are needed in these projects, what kind of specialists they are needed in the projects to keep going with interdisciplinary framework. And on the third course, we talk about work beyond university. We apply to external partners, also to administrative partners, to make them help us form this list of projects. And the projects of customers, they are included into this list of projects, and we realize that they can be mono projects, monodisciplinary and interdisciplinary. Maybe there are less interdisciplinary projects because just the result of this work will be the qualification work. So the framework on the first course is set by the university. So in 2019 it was used, taking into account main tracks like culture, tourism, production, museums. This is what was interesting in terms of the regional development, and this is what regional authorities were interested in. And we kept up with this framework. In 2020, the university made a new framework, the development of campus, and in this theme, students realized some actions. They generated ideas, and this is how they created teams. On the third and fourth course, they will have lists of projects, windows of projects. Maybe some projects will be repeated, and in university we have an expertise council that assesses whether the project is interesting, whether the project is worth investing further and is worth accelerating further or not. Talking about organizational issues, at the beginning of this year, in September 2020, we created a school of project management in the university, and in terms of this school, we have managerial personnel, project managers who coordinate work in university. In each institution in the structure of Novgorod universities, there are 7 institutions, 4 colleges. Each college and institution have a curator that are responsible for project activity, as well as a tutor. I mentioned that before. And on this slide, you can see the timeline of a project semester. These 4 stages that we have every 4th week in each stage is an activities for project teams. Of course, it's important for us. The referral points are expert day and the defending of a thesis. And when we invite an expert, when we have this expert day, the School of the Project Management looks the directions, the industries, and gradually create the register of experts, not only internal, but also external. And finally, the defendants of a thesis, when in each track we choose the best top 3 projects that come to the project Olympus, and we choose either 10. For example, last year we've chosen 10 top projects, and this year taking into account that the first course of bachelor degree and the first course of professional education we've chosen, and now we are preparing to the final stage, and we've chosen 30 projects. So here you can see the main effects of the project-oriented model, and the main effects are new quality of graduates, new level of competencies, and also we appreciate that we open new, deeper level of partnership with the region, industrial partners and authorities, state authorities, representative of state authorities, other stakeholders that are in the region. Thank you very much for your attention. Olga, thank you very much for your presentation. Dear colleagues, I suggest to change our agenda. We will listen to all speakers, and at the end we will have some time for Q&A session. I would like to give the floor to our colleague from Kazakhstan, Asylbek Kozhakhmetov, the president of Almaty University of Management. Asylbek, please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yeah, everything is fine. First of all, thank you. It's a big honor for me to take part in this conference, and I'm glad that my topic is of importance to you. We think that all the projects, they influence the ambience and the environment, the society where university is located. So it's different projects that are the instrument for development, and they change the attitude of the society towards the projects, if the projects are good. In 2017, Almaty Management University refused from the system of having diploma works, and we passed on to the format of diploma projects. Every project comprises a couple of students, and we want to show you the results, to share the results with you. In 3 years, the quantity of projects that came to the stage of implementation, it grew from 8% to 21%. I don't think that it needs to be 100%, but on the other hand, it is an important figure, an important parameter. So these are the examples of implementation of diploma and master projects. You can read what type of projects these are. So these are the examples of acts of implementation of diploma projects with the different brands, big brands in Kazakhstan in 2020. So, student, the name has implemented this or that project. So there were budgets, and then we elaborated the instrumentation. 21% of our yearly graduates can boast such a result, which is great. Another direction. These are new levels of project activities in marketology. For example, implementation or usage of equipment. We have a special group that analyzes the stickers, analyzes the supermarket, and it addresses us as clients. Yearly, we have 700 to 800 students in business master administration. The average age of those students is 35 years. So they are involved into continuous study process. So we know that we offer them problems that they can tackle, and we can tackle with the aid of our students. This is one small example how this can be used. So the technology, face reading. So what does it mean? It's an advertising reel. So he sees the reel, and then it's been recorded. So then there is analysis of what the onlooker, the viewer, really liked. So this is how it works.
Здесь главное внимание.
So the face, the eye expression, the facial expression, so watch. So you see different emotions in the face of the person who is watching, surprise, approval, joy. Unfortunately, I can't hear properly, so I can't really translate properly right now. So this is another example, School of Engineering Management. So all the graduates of this year were involved into the project. So they tried to define the problem, formulate the aims, and they find right solutions to these problems. The graduates worked in teams for automation of business processes of subdivisions. So on the one hand, they were involved, all the graduates were involved. On the other hand, the graduates can implement the projects of implementation of their diploma works. Another example is interdisciplinary project work of students of the first to fourth year of different faculties of the university, started in 2020. So this is the Department of Complex Consulting Services. So this is the description of the services that they can provide. So what do we have in reality? They, to our mind, they create knowledge and expertise, and they and it can be used in different directions and fields of knowledge. So a lot of people are interested in this kind of projects and working with the tutors and who help them and help them give the shape to their projects and to bring the project to its end. Another type of work, this is the business incubator in the university. It is it targets development of conscious entrepreneurship among students of the university through the realization of program of consulting support. There are consultants of the fourth year, the teachers who are consulting, specialists in business, experts, trackers, partners of the university. 3,500 students took part in this project during the period of 5 years. And we partner with different universities, aviation university, etc. And to sum up, I would like to say that we focus on the development of a personality and not just on preparation of a professional in some field. So the result of being involved into a real process, real project with consulting people from different backgrounds. So it's not that they just want to get a diploma or certificate, but they're motivated to work and they get self-confidence, confidence in their skill and ability to work and in their skills in communication. And also to just prove themselves that they have guts and STEM. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have questions, you are more than welcome. Thank you very much, Asylbek, for the examples of unique practices. Actually, we decided that we have Q&A session later, and I give the floor to our next speaker in this plenary session, Taisya Pogadaeva, Vice Rector of Tyumen State University. You're welcome. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak in this wonderful place. We speak about project education quite often, and listening to the colleagues, especially Sergei Yurievich, I would like to outline the difficulties that go hand in hand with this project. It is a logical particular feature of the disciplines, devaluation of the term itself, the project education, as Sergei Yurievich mentioned rightly, and your reaction proves it. It can be anything, and we call any phenomenon with this term. the competences of project education, they cause smile, then a wish to have a dialogue about it. And the third thing is also controversial. It's the deficit of places, the fields where these projects are initiated or realized. Because when the project is not realized, it is not a project, it's just an idea. And it's some kind of activity, but we cannot speak about any type of project if it hasn't been fulfilled and brought to an end. Okay, here's my presentation. So if we speak about project education in Tyumen State University, 5 years ago we made a drastic change about in our education model. I will not speak about it, but I will speak about how it allowed us to change our approach in education.
То есть проектное обучение в университете реализуется по принципу деятельность, рефлексия деятельности.
We chose a scheme, activities, reflection on the activities. So I will try to tell you how it looks like for a freshman, for a first-year student. Right now we have this company for the people who are going to enter the university, and I'm going to try to tell you how the first-year student is emerged into this process of project education. So when our university has a block of general program, a core program, and when we constructed it, it has a principle of project education in its core. The first act of emergence into the process of studies is the discipline Russia and the world. So when a student comes into the university after having heard some lectures, he chooses a project, and it's kind of a workshop where he carries out his first research project of research. And when choosing this workshop and formulating the theme of the project and getting into this team, the students get to the first stage of this emergence. They face all the difficulties that exist. It's a team, it's different roles, it's solidarity, joint responsibility, and it's interplay between private life and studies, and schedules that need to be followed. And this result should be the common group scientific project. So of course, it's not the only thing. The product shift is very important. The project is a product, and here we use this transfer. When they do they work on the scientific project, they also think about the packaging, so-called packaging of the project. So there is a course of digital culture. It is packaging of this project into a digital project. Taking into consideration the fact that they are all different because the choice of participants is random, and
they can have a digital product from long read to a game. We also have that depending on competencies that are in the team. It's really important because they understand to see the difference between a project and a product. It's really important in the real life. The project stops when you see the result, the final result of the project. But product is how this result will live and develop in the future and how to control and manage what you've got. The next important step, and here I step into the reflection, on the second course they will have, that's around 3,000 people in the course, in the second course. The course, the subject, how to manage the project. This is the theory practical frame. They can see what they've done before with theoretical categories that they study in the cycle of project management. After this theoretical framework, students get into the simulation, and then they get into the cycle of initiating, where they initiate and defend projects. And this cycle goes with the help of trackers. We have a team of trackers. We had very serious approach to that. We trained those guys, and usually this is external participants. These are the people who in real life work on projects, whose work are related to projects. After students pass those cycles, they go into activities, into real professional projecting, or we have designed several tracks, for example, technological entrepreneurship track. If students are interested in this direction, they can choose this track and go during the third and the fourth course. Now I will talk in details about each element, and I will try to keep up with the timeline. If you look at a scheme, how project learning looks like, this is a reflection of what you do, the conclusions what I do, and a start of a new experiment. In terms of one discipline, I totally agree with Sergey. If you want to teach projects, you have to rebuild the whole plan, educational plan. You cannot do this, so you put students to study projects at the end of the whole course, before, like 3 months before they defend the thesis. We intuitively understood this, but we knew that if we do not rebuild the whole activity, we will not be able to do it. So we give the students opportunity to form the practice of project activity. So when they enter this sphere, they understand the logics, they have the experience how to go through these steps. So they can start the project activity with the preparations. Talking about the project management, I told that when students start to manage projects, they can choose the track, whether it is a social project, technological project, or entrepreneurial project, because we cannot involve everyone into all three. These are 3,000 students, engineering students, humanitarian students, and we cannot say that there is one template. It was mentioned by the previous speaker about projects in educational sphere. There are tracks and there are variations within those tracks. Of course, when you have 3,000 students and you cannot talk about the technology of activity. Of course, we have very technological track, everything that is related to theory. This is online content. Then we have online simulator, and only then the one-third of projects, they work with trackers, and they have continuous mentorship and help to get the result. I will not go into details. The main aim was to say that this is approximately 2,500 students, and over 2 years of implementation of this course, we've got over 1,000 student projects, and 30% of those projects received financing, external form financing. There were different funds, different grants, but for us, we found a very interesting niche. This is the city as a project platform. And in the framework, like within the dialogue with the city, we had the whole bunch of projects that was devoted to the city, and the city is eager to finance those projects, to transform the city area. and city environment. This is a variation of how students can identify themselves after the course of project management. After this project management course, in terms of like in the framework of specific environment, they can get competencies that let them go into the project. Of course, we understand that technological entrepreneurship is different from traditional entrepreneurship. Besides business hypothesis, there is a technological hypothesis that they are testing. So we give them knowledge and skills to be able to test technological hypothesis, and are able to go to a popular startup direction. Startup as a diploma. It's not possible to accomplish it within 3 months. It's a long-term activity. If we do not organize it in the environment, there will be a big risk that they create something similar, some intention around startup, but not startup itself as a diploma. So if we see it as a serious task, you need a time framework for that, a time limit and timeline. So to make it visually clear, I show you one project. It was logical, but it was not easy to start. The conference is the education and global cities, and for 8 years the High School of Economics, that education and city go together. They interlink with each other and interact with each other. And we've come to the same point, not directly, but we are happy to be here. We're happy to realize this idea. So everything that is related to transforming social infrastructure and social environment that was based in the university. We had a premise that was called Winter Garden. Then it was left, and it required serious reconstruction. And our students came up with an idea when we changed this model, and we became a student of the full day. And the students had some free time in their curriculum and in their timetable. So we started to reframe and transform premises and places in university, facilities in the universities, so the students are able to stay there when they have free time, to be like in teams and to have some constructive communication, not just to and they organized a project of co-working. They received financing. The developer was really happy and interested that students in this artificial so-called environment made just the first attempts to create a new environment. So this was the project of transformation of the Winter Garden in the University of Humanitarian Science. And it was transformed into a good co-working, functional co-working. How do we go into the city? We've chosen several directions. We have a theoretical framework. We have a course like City as a text. We create research projects about the city, sociological projects, anthropological projects, historical projects. They are interdisciplinary. They are just inside of humanitarian framework, but the projects are very interesting. They gave already good results in Tobolsk. We had in St. Petersburg this project, our first project here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And now we create and we implement this project in small cities. Like, it's interesting to contrast St. Petersburg and small cities, like the courses of making, the courses of changing the city environment, the infrastructure. We talk to city authorities and bring these projects into the real city environment, and we invite experts from the city side to assess the projects. This is all about students' initiatives, students' administration, and we created a fund that finances students' projects for important directions, important for university directions, and one of those is city environment. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for your attention. I tried to be concise. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Now it's time for questions. Please ask your questions. I have two questions. One question is to the representative of Novgorod University. Thank you very much. And also question to Taisia. Thank you very much. So the first question to the representative of Novgorod University. You said that you have a course that is based, that is called the basics of project activity. Could you please tell me, is these basics the theory, cases, or methodology? The course is methodology and theory. Thank you. And the second question is, Taisia. I have forgotten the question. I'm so sorry. So please remember. Another question. Other questions, colleagues? So the question is about the palace. Who renovated the palace? That was the financing of one of our construction companies. Dear colleagues, do you have any other questions? Our experts would like to comment on the ideas that they've heard. Sergey, please. Yeah, I have 3 ideas. The first one. While listening to my colleagues, Taisia and Olga, I envied the universities in small cities, in relatively small cities. It's a very clear format that you went into. I know that when the university has tight relationships with the city, Moscow and St. Petersburg universities also try to go this way, but there are so many universities in those cities, in Moscow and St. Petersburg, so the city has like a big choice, and it's difficult to work together with one university. And for you, it was easier to have a dialogue with the city. So it was great idea and great direction to develop. And I wanted to reflect and to talk about challenges. What we are talking about, we can see like this situation in a very general way. Like we can call everything either projects or processes. But what's important, this is the task that, like the problem that does not have a certain solution. And I hear how our colleagues solve those problems, but they still don't have one solution. There is an attempt to put everything related to project into the logistics and framework of an educational process, and at the same time to keep these projects alive, not like an imitation, but the projects are not aligned with the schemes, with the timetable of educational process. There are very many parameters and why these projects cannot be a genuine part of the educational process. And this is a challenge for educational management to create a construction that helps us to be flexible. The efforts to make it rigid do not work. So if everyone reports at the same time, and if the university is bigger, like the more rigid this framework is, the less workable it is, and the less effective it is. So it's really important for the educational system to understand this. And what is a second important thing? A project is when something is done. The second challenge that I see, we all see it, but we have different approaches. We don't have good results. How to assess failed projects? The time was spent. When we assess the amount of knowledge until you learn and pass the test, you will not get the mark. But in the project, you do not have a second chance, especially in the educational space. So let's say the project is failed. How many times a person has to start another project? Why the project has failed? Whether there was lack of motivation, lack of time invested, how to arrange and hedge the risks, whether the student was responsible for the fail or other situations. So we need to think about it, and we need to create a framework how to assess and how to approach to this matter. So I do not see a clear solution, just probably a trial and fail can be implemented. And the third thing that I see as a challenge, we are all, everyone in Russia and in Kazakhstan, we talked about projects that were successful with 3 competencies. Everything was good with computer science, with IT, a digital framework, and also we can be successful with business processes, marketing and consulting, and we also have good results with design and industrial design or product design. And we do not tell a lot about other projects.
So we do speak about them, but in a modest way. The third issue is how actually to construct the projects so that they become real and correspond to the diversity of the education process, so that they correspond to subjects that exist in the university program, because we won't have such a great variety of projects. How can you evaluate the impact of a philosophy into the program of philosophy, for example? So these are serious issues. But these are the 3 most important challenges that we have for the organization of the process, but they break actually through the space that we have, the education space. Dear colleagues, let me... There are more questions, okay? The final question, please. First Vice Rector, we cannot hear properly. First Vice Rector of Altai University. So today you voiced a couple of paths and forms that project approach can take. So Taisia voiced her own story, but to me, the most clear story is Almaty University. They started to implement the project within the university. So, and you made a speech. So where are we going? Because we are mixed up now. Each of the universities has its own approach. So is it normal that each of you has his or her own approach? I don't know what my colleagues would say. Okay, you addressed me, but it's a question to everyone. Generally speaking, I don't consider that all universities go in the same direction. Some of the universities go in a totally different direction, like diametrically. So the term that there is a direction for Russian education or world education, I cannot apply these terms. We only can speak about universities that want to respond to the challenges that are provided by the environment and real life. And we can share these practices and experience. Secondly, the issue to find challenges, we cannot answer this question in one way, using one framework, because there wouldn't be a frame, because it works differently and the structure is different. The organization of project activity for 2,000 people 2,000 people, you can know each one in person. And for 45,000 people, we will never know them in person, all these people. So that's why the experience of the people who implement such projects is so important, because it's clear that this experience wouldn't be the same. We are looking for and searching for new ideas, and I don't know where we are going, but we are moving. A different thing is important. It's a huge question and issue that is being discussed in different sessions of the conferences here and in other places. What are we doing with education in general? What do we want to achieve? Because it is one of the directions in the explosion of the traditional education, that you get a number of skills and knowledge, and then you get a diploma. It doesn't work this way anymore, because the challenges are different. But Sergei Yurievich, if we go away from education schedule as a fixed story, that it should be flexible, does it mean that the standards of the next generation, I speak, it says an idea, it will be just independent work of the students, project work? Will this project will give him freedom, or it will put him within this new rigid frames where his partners from the industrial background or his mentors, tutors will put him? Okay, I'm sorry, colleagues. I'm going to speak briefly. Every business is developed when all the processes are clear to all the participants, and when they work to get a result. When it is successful, then there will not be a burden. So will they limit, or will they be stipulating the development? I don't know. It will reflect the effort and the skills of the university management. We want that what do we want? We want perfect order and a reasonable order, or something weird in the end. You know, we need to choose and make decisions. Okay, I'm going to continue. I think the whole discussion of where the education is going and moving, how it is transforming, honestly, let's speak about where we are going. So the next 9th conference will have this title, this name. So I'm answering your question about the schedule, education schedule. We have a flexible education space, and if something is a failure, we can reform ourselves, and we make our conclusions. We just solve different issues. So some of the students leave the university. So we have a certain space where these rules exist. There is a program of standard courses where everything goes as it should go, that people have exams, students have exams and get scores, and it's obligatory. But I think where we are going, it's an issue of communication. We need to actually inform the student what we are doing, and he should make a decision on if he needs it or not. I think that university is about students, and we work for them. It's a devaluation of the word project. This is the issue. We understand that the project needs realization, but we cannot provide this realization, so let's not call it a project. We'll give basic algorithms, theoretical basis, and we'll give you skills, but we are not going to name it project education. And startup as a diploma, I know that startup as a diploma can end up with a number of startups. We will have more startups than in Silicon Valley, and it might happen. So each of us has his or her own answer to this part of the question. We need to understand what we are doing in reality, what are our characteristic traits, and what differs us from all the rest of the educational institutions. So we see who's with us, who's not with us, and the students can go to another university, and they go to another university and do whatever they should do there. Where does our vocation go in general, our profession? I'm also bothered by this question, but I have faith as well. It seems to me that this session and discussion, the presentations that have been made by our speakers, they caused a lot of questions and not answers, but it's a good result. It's a result because they made us think about the issues that need to be thought of, and we don't have a ready-made answer. We mentioned devaluation of understanding a project as a whole, but devaluation goes through growing, because all our life is a project. Everything we do is a project. And what is a project in education? How can we understand it and interpret it? All these issues have different answers, as we saw in different universities. So I would like to thank our speakers for really interesting ideas that they expressed and presented to us, and for the volume of information that they gave us as food for thought. Thank you very much. And we wish success and realization of your projects to all the audience as well.